Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Wednesday Hump Day edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Rick Henry with you here in Columbia, joined today by Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston, Teagan Brown in Myrtle Beach, and Carmine Jamay in the upstate in Greenville. We're going to get right to it. We're going to talk some college football. The Gamecocks, big challenge this weekend, another big challenge for South Carolina this year. Hosting fourth-ranked Alabama, and believe it or not, the Crimson Tide will be USC's homecoming opponent. Who's responsible for that decision? I don't know, but someone needs to have a little stern conversation with them. Who would ever pick Alabama to be your homecoming opponent? But Carolina's offensive line, they need to show a whole lot more improvement the next few weeks, because after Alabama, they go to Ole Miss, they go to Texas A&M. They've had some injuries there. They were missing 3 people going into last week's Oklahoma game, and then they missed 3 more with injuries during the game. Now, we've got some video of Sean Elliott. Last week was his first game as taking over as the offensive line coach. He's very passionate. You can see here in pregame, you can tell that he's very vocal, very loud, and, you know, he just doesn't take any mess. And during Tuesday's media availability, Boaz Stanley, one of Carolina's offensive linemen, said they need to get meaner this year. And, you know, he talked about how Sean Elliott can help them get there.
We got to play like just meaner and really just, like I was saying, execute a lot better. We got some different players than what we started the season off, obviously, and we just got to execute together better, and that's what the coaches are getting us to do that, and just adjusting to. Obviously, we got Coach Elliott and adjusting to what he wants to do.
But there's certainly that's a mindset. I think that comes from, you know, just eliminating clutter in their heads. Not saying that there was, but the more we can do, just eliminate clutter in their heads and make it simple for guys to just go play and come off the ball and not have to think so much. And we've got tough guys in that offensive line room, and they want to play that way, and we just need to continue to help them. And certainly Sean's personality allows that to come out in them, to say the least.
Okay, now with Sean Elliott taking over as offensive line coach, they're not going to change the offense. The blocking schemes are going to have to stay the same, but you've got to execute. And I thought he could really help with the discipline, and he did. You didn't see those pre-snap penalties that we've been seeing all year, but the guys that are in there, they have to be more aggressive. Kevin.
Yeah, and you know, we talked last week. I didn't expect a whole lot of changes from when Sean Elliott went in and took over the offensive line, because like we said, he's been in charge of this run game the entire season. So he should have been in with them the entire year before last week. And you mentioned the good part, that the pre-snap penalties were way down last week against Oklahoma. But still, you look at the rushing game, and it wasn't where it needs to be if they're going to compete against these other SEC teams, against the likes of Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. Those last 3 that are the next 3 games they have to face. I think it was something like, trying to go over the numbers right here, 54 yards rushing, and 50 of those coming from Faison, which included a big run that he had. So that's just not going to get it done if they're going to compete against these other SEC teams. And that's not just on Lenora Sellers and him running the ball or his passing numbers or anything like that. They have to be, you know, more aggressive, like you said, Rick. I don't know if they have to be meaner. They have to be smarter in what they're doing, and they have to follow through on their blocks, Carmine, when they're out there on the line.
Yeah, they definitely do. And as many problems as South Carolina's having on the offensive line, Clemson's now all of a sudden having on defense in total, because you kind of have to remove a couple of these games, because against North Carolina and Boston College, Clemson gave a great effort. They held those 2 teams to only 10 points, but that's literally the bottom of the barrel as far as the ACC. Against middle of the pack and better, I guess you could categorize ACC teams, they gave up 34 points at home to Syracuse, and then just coming off giving up 35 points to SMU. They're basically a shoo-in to give up 300 yards per game on offense, whereas, as you guys all know, Clemson usually hangs its hat that on the defensive side of the ball, and that's, one area where they can usually stack up very well. But I wanted to point out, because defensive coordinator Tom Allen was so frustrated this week getting on the mic in lieu of Dabo's press conference, and specifically talking about the frustrations of not being able to hold up in that final drive, because on the last offensive drive for Christopher Vazina and Clemson, they threw up that 4th and 20 pass to Tristan Smith. He came down with it on the free play because of the offsides on the SMU defense. Amazing play, cut the SMU lead to just 5 points with about 7 minutes left. And from there, SMU just dominated running the ball and converting on third downs countless times and drained out the entire clock nearly until they scored with 1 minute and 15 seconds left. And on that drive, SMU converted a 3rd and 1, a 3rd and 7. They converted a 4th and 3 with a pass interference on Ronan Hannafin, who we just talked about had that homecoming against his brother at Boston College, and then a 3rd and 10 on a perfect pass down the sideline for another first down. So multiple chances to stop SMU and multiple conversions. But here's how Tom Allen hopefully thinks they can correct this, even though the season has been a disappointment with that 3-4 record. But here's what he says can hopefully try and turn things around.
We got a lot of character, a lot of leadership on this team, and these guys understand that they're playing for a lot because of who they represent and this program, and wanting to be able to continue to improve and continue to play at an elite level, as our goal to play at that level. And so even though we've fallen short of that, throughout this season. So, but to me, it's a testament to who you are, both as a coach and as a player, is that your ability to weather the adversities that you face, whether they're self-created or whether they're come from outside, and it doesn't really matter where they come from. It's how you respond to it. So I think that's the focus, and that's what's going to be the continued focus.
And the focus also on getting healthy during this bye week. And then they got Duke in a couple weeks, which is playing pretty well as well, and is, according to what Clemson's done this season, another candidate to score in the mid-30s as far as a quality ACC opponent putting up points. But Teagan, what do you think? I mean, where do you see the Tigers going from here as far as that defense? Because it's an emotional letdown, too, when you got 2 projected top 5 picks on your defensive line in TJ Parker and Peter Woods. And I know the back end with the secondary is less experienced, and there's some miscommunications causing these big explosive plays, which I think Clemson gave up 6 plays of 20 or more yards in the last game against SMU. Just can't happen if you're going to try to win. But what's your optimism for the Tigers to at least get a bowl game, Teagan, and somewhat salvage this season?
I mean, I think we talked about, the Palmetto Bowl and reaching that point in both South Carolina and Clemson, probably having 5 wins if we even think South Carolina can reach that. I think Clemson has a better chance of reaching, that 5-win, 6-win mark for a bowl game. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious, Carmine, if you've heard anything about Cade Klubnik making a return this week and how he's doing with that ankle injury before I give my input about kind of where I think they're going to go from here.
Hey, no, I respect that, trying to make an informed decision. Cade is, as Dabo likes to say, day-to-day, but he was saying in his post-game press conference after SMU that he does expect Cade to play in the game against Duke, and you see the dramatic limp that Cade was walking down the Tiger Walk for the SMU game right there. So great producing by our team in the control room to pull that up immediately. Cade with a severe limp, missed his first game in 34 outings. And so, like I said, Dabo expects him to play given the 2 weeks leading up to Duke, but he's not guaranteeing that. But it seems like Cade's doing everything he possibly can as far as therapy and recovery to get back ready. So, Teagan, assuming Cade will play from the rest of the season, where do you see this rest of the season going?
I see them at least staying where they are at this point, after those couple of ACC wins that they got. I don't know if I necessarily see a lot of growth to that high point that we expected in the beginning of the season, when we were talking about ACC championship, a playoff run, all of that. I just don't think they've lived up to expectations. I had really high expectations for Tom Allen taking on this defense after what he did last year, but I just don't know if necessarily we're going to see them hit that bowl benchmark, Kevin.
Yeah, Carmine, you talk about Klubnik's health and him being expected to probably play against Duke in a couple of weeks. At some point, does Clemson just need to pull the trigger and hand the ball over to Vizina for the rest of the season? I mean, it's obvious your best case scenario, you're going to a lower level bowl game with Klubnik as your quarterback. Why not just hand it to the backup, the guy who's going to be here next year, and just see what he can do and see if you can build things up for next year a little bit?
I think if the bowl eligibility is out of the question, then yes. But I think if you still have a chance to make a bowl game, I think you got to put your best guys out there. And even though it's not the season that Clemson expected or even close, it still is a point of pride and a big money deal for the team to get into a bowl game and generate those viewership dollars and things like that. So I don't know, Rick, where do you stand on that, pulling the plug and putting CV in there for the remainder?
Yeah, well, I want to see just exactly, is Cade able to play right now this weekend? Is it going to last for a couple more weeks? Then, yeah, go with the young fellow and protect Cade and his future in football, as well as prepare yourself for the future. And as far as Clemson's defense, I don't know. Do they need to simplify it? Is it a little too complicated? Do you need to free their minds so they can just go out there and play? And coming up on Friday, we're going to have a guest picker for Locks of the Week. How about former Gamecock receiver Alshon Jeffrey, Super Bowl champion? He's going to spend some time with us, and that's going to be a treat for all of us. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the opening segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be right back with much more.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily, and unfortunately, guys, the football games haven't been that much fun to watch at Clemson's Memorial Stadium, but we do have a very fun team to watch coming to town, and that's the Savannah Bananas coming for a game tomorrow, or if you're watching Thursday morning, it's later in the evening, 7 o'clock. They play in a rematch against the Clemson baseball team, which if we pull up this video, the Savannah Bananas have made a lot of history in Tiger Town, and that one of those is Memorial Stadium recently hosting the first ever Savannah Bananas game in a college football stadium. Just across the street, Clemson baseball is getting ready to host that rematch with the Bananas. Look at all that action with the founder, Jesse Cole. Last year, the Tigers became the first ever college baseball team to play an actual game against the Savannah Bananas with specialized Savannah ball rules, banana ball rules, and the team went viral in the game for that dance video you saw right there. 50 million views on social media. They threw the audience a curveball with the dance moves, and head coach Eric Bakich says the excitement's very high once again, partially because that attention can turn into dollar signs for his players.
I'm always going to max out and push the envelope on trying to help our players capitalize on any financial opportunities that they can get, and so this is not a better way to do that than putting the national spotlight on them in October, where you can start to see their personalities, and in the world of commercially driven NIL, it could be a great opportunity for some of those guys to capitalize on that, and that's a win in itself, in addition to trying to win the game.
And we here at Fox Carolina will have live shots in the 4, 5, and 6 o'clock newscast leading up to the 7 o'clock Thursday pitch-off between the Bananas and Clemson. And guys, Clemson's hoping to split their series with the Bananas because they lost this game 4-1 last year. So you might think of the Savannah Bananas as the Harlem Globetrotters of sports, but that's not really the case, because with the Globetrotters, they're always going to beat the Washington Generals. You know that. The outcome's determined. But with the Bananas, the game's actually competitive, and the outcome is in the balance. So we'll see what happens. And Rick, we got to get Paul Maneri on this train here. Get the Bananas down in Columbia. What do you think?
Well, if this baseball season doesn't go so well, I think everyone will be all for it. So they're playing in Memorial Stadium again?
No, this one's actually back at Doug Kingsmore this time.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it would be kind of a treat to have, some excitement there in Memorial Stadium, just like the Gamecocks haven't been able to provide a whole lot of excitement for their fans either. So anyway, I'm sure the baseball fans and the fans of the Savannah Bananas will have a great time.
All right, first off, split with the Bananas. I see what you did there, Carmine, and I'm digging it. The other thing, though, is I'm all for Eric Bakich doing this and having the Bananas come out, I'm a big fan of what they do. And, we've got teams coming to Charleston early next year as well, so we're excited about that. The one thing is, though, if you're Clemson, you can't be doing these games with the Bananas and then falling short when you get to the NCAA tournament, because the first thing those opposite fans are bringing up is the video of the Clemson guys dancing and doing backflips on the field against the Bananas, saying, why are they doing this instead of taking batting practice when they go, 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position in the Super Regionals. So just something for Clemson and Eric Bakich to think of as they go into this one, Teagan.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I just like to see them have fun in these, but I totally get what you mean. That can be used as ammunition against them. You look at West Virginia, and their guy said that they can't do any dances for the football team on TikTok or anything. But I mean, it's just so exciting to see these groups come to different communities. Conway's going to have the party animals in March, and I'm sure it'll be a huge event for the community. I'm kind of curious to see if Coastal's team gets involved at all, if they're going to tie them in or anything like that. But wish I could be there to see the Bananas in Greenville tomorrow. But if you guys are going and you're watching, feel free to tweet at us. We've all got Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it today. And just, let us know. Check us out on there, too. But we're going to take a quick break here on Palmetto Sports. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We just talked some football, some baseball. Now we're almost to hoop season. We've got a little bit less than 2 weeks to go until those opening matchups for most of the teams. Coastal Carolina women's basketball going into this year after last year's 23-9 record. They've got the same head coach. It's Kevin Pedersen, but they've got almost an entirely new roster. There were just 2 returners, and only one of those had a majority of the time playing last year. Dawson Jemerson coming off of an injury, whereas Kristen Williams was there all of last season, a pretty coveted player. She chose to stay at Coastal. And head coach Kevin Pedersen just talked about how grateful he was that she did, how, he just told her to trust him, that he would put together a good team that would help surround her with great players. And they've got 7 portal players. They've got 3 freshmen. So, majority new team. Coach Pedersen talking yesterday about Kristen Williams and the era with portal players.
It's one of those, you keep looking around, it's like, what's the next domino that's going to fall? And, it's just, I think every coach cringes. You wait for the portal to close and you're like, okay, who's left? What do we have? And you kind of go from there. And I remember feeling that way with Kristen. We're like, if you ever seen the movie Jerry Maguire, it's like, okay, who's coming with me? Who's left? It's me and the goldfish right now. But there's a lot of faith involved in that. There's a lot of trust for someone like Kristen Williams, who is a coveted player who had a lot of opportunities. She could have gone just about anywhere she wanted to go. And so you're thankful for her believing in what you're doing and buying into it, not only what she experienced the year before, but hey, I trust you guys that this is not going to be a rebuild. This is going to be a reload.
Yeah, and the Chants last year, their season ending in the NIT with a loss to Campbell, a very close loss. Coastal was leading until pretty much the last 2 minutes, and then they just lost that lead and could not get it back by the end. But they're looking to, bounce back this year, have a good season. They built up really good crowds last year with Teal Nation making it to a bunch of the games. So Rick, I'll kind of ask you, because you cover Gamecocks women's basketball. Just what kind of impact do you think that those crowds make for these teams and the motivation it gives them?
Well, especially in the case of the USC women, it means a great deal because I can go back to when hardly anyone showed up for a USC women's game. Used to call it the MCI crowds, friends and family only. But when that place is packed and they've got the towels waving and sandstorm, that helps to elevate the whole spirit and attitude of the team and makes it a very tough environment for opposing teams. So if other teams can come close to doing that, it will help their cause out a great deal too. And since we're on the subject of basketball and the Gamecocks, well, we're only a couple of weeks away from the start of the season. And South Carolina had a very fun event last night. Garnet and Black Madness. There's Don Staley showing off her best moves. Men's coach Lamont Paris a little more reserved. They had some on-court competitions, three-point shootout, skills competition, and a pretty good slam dunk contest. Ooh, that was Mike Sherab-Jumps, and he liked it. And but he finishes second to that guy, Hayden Asimian. First, he jumped over one teammate, and Waka Flocka Flame personally delivered him a perfect score of 10. And on this attempt, he flew over two teammates, a pair of 7-footers. So some exciting stuff there from the Gamecocks. And then they were treated to a concert by Waka Flocka Flame. Now the men play an exhibition Sunday in Greensboro against North Carolina State. And the women host Anderson Friday for an exhibition at 7 p.m. And Carmine, I'll toss it to you. Do you think USC basketball can provide that level of excitement, both the men and women this coming season?
Well, the women, I have no doubt about their ability to go hard in the paint. The men, though, I'm not sure as much about. There's so many question marks with a lot of new players, and that season last year of only 2 SEC wins. I think the women will exceed Waka Flocka Flame's excitement, while the men fall short. But we'll be right back with more of sports talk right after this. But great performance by Waka Flocka, one of my favorites.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. A lot of the preseason talk involving Gamecock women's basketball has been about who they don't have. Chloe Kitts out for the season with a knee injury. Ashlyn Watkins also recovering from a knee injury, but also taking some time off from basketball. But hey, 2 Gamecocks named first team All-SEC by the coaches, Joyce Edwards and Tanaya Latson. Carmine.
Yeah, Rick, just a quick education on Waka Flocka Flame. Some big hits if you need to check it out. No Kids Allowed, very explicit music. No Hands, Grove Street Party, Hard in the Paint, that's a good basketball one. Oh, Let's Do It, that's my favorite freestyle rap if you dabble in the creativity. And last one, 15th and the 1st, all about payday, but our payday's over. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.